You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, card shop, arcade, theme park, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
Today on the Game Marks podcast, we play Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 Max Voltage, thanks to Mega Mark Jamie Patterson. Will this game hold up today? Will we play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
We also dive into the WWE 2K22 roster reveal and an exciting finale to this month's Clash at the Feast. Plug in, put on those nostalgia goggles, because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now.
And now, the Game Marks. Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, presented by the Major Pod Network. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
That welcome had me thinking that maybe you were Howard Finkel for a second. And I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis, and today we are playing Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 Max Voltage, thanks to Mega Mark Jamie Patterson. What's up, soups?
And as always, we love to hear from you, so please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen, and join the conversation on all social media at GameMarksPod and on Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. What's up, George? This is a game we never really heard of before. Soups picked it. Are you ready to play some Jikkyō?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say the whole name there.
This is one of those weeks where we're saying, nope, you know what? We're going to call this Max Voltage.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine with me. Yeah, I got to tell you, this is not a game that was ever really on my radar, and I'm kind of surprised by it. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
I got to give it to the Mega Marks, though, because even coming up in the next few weeks, this next month, we have a few games that we've never heard of. So this should be a lot of fun.
And you know what? I got to tell you, these lesser known games that, you know, maybe you and I aren't really as familiar with, sometimes we get a banger. Sometimes it's a game that, you know, ends up being in the full rotation. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of exciting when it's a game that we're not as familiar with.
Yeah, and keep listening to hear if this game is one of those. But last week, a game everyone's familiar with, WWF Superstars 2 for the Nintendo Game Boy. How you feeling about it? You still hitting that play it forever, or are you swapping? Because we know you're the switcher here.
Listen, it hasn't happened very often, but no, I'm not swapping. This is awesome. This was an awesome game. It really is that, you know, Royal Rumble, Raw, WrestleMania style ported to a Game Boy. What more could you ask for in a Game Boy?
It's honestly better, in my opinion, because I'm not a big fan of those games because I find them just to be a little too difficult. But if it had finishing moves, I think it would be the perfect Game Boy game.
Agreed.
100%
agreed.
But all right, let's talk about this week, because today you're getting this show ad-free on Patreon. Tuesday, you're getting the show notes, and you're getting GMP Game Over when we play WCW Feel the Bang, a Nintendo 64 No Mercy mod. Wednesday, you're getting Future Endeavor on Patreon, where last week I played at Sushi Onita FMW, and this week, Georgie, you're playing a game that we kind of started a little bit of a series for us when we talked to Mike Herman, but you're playing Mat Mania, the Pro Wrestling Network, and some of those characters are in Retromania. So
yeah, I gotta tell you, there's a lot of games that we have covered on the Future Endeavored list, and there's some that stick with me, and this is one of those games that I'm like, do I have to?
Yes, you do. That's the point of the game. It's to put us through misery, like at Sushi Onita.
Like you,
oh my
with
god,
at Sushi Onita.
That was terrible. Terrible. But that's what we got going on this week. And Friday, you're finally going to get that Clash and Burn, but it's going to be at the end of the week. It's going to be during the Creator Pro show, just as usual. I know you guys like those, so we're going to do that. But the streamer spotlight for this month, for the last time, I think, for technically January, even though tomorrow's February already, twitch.tv/NY Islanders _ who are losing 2-0 as we record this.
Hooray! And of course, guys, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. I want that plaque. We got a long ways to go.
Yeah, we do.
But I want that plaque.
And check out GameMarksPod.com/shop for gamer grips, guitar picks, and other Game Marks Podcast merch, and also ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPodcast, as well as some TeePublic stuff. But are you ready to dive into some gaming news and we can get this show rolling?
This is going to be a long gaming news, and I am all for it. Let's go. Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at VGFgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style.
All right, so usually we do the little music. We start reading off some gaming news, but it's that time of year, finally, again, where we could talk about the current upcoming 2K game coming out for WWE, and I cannot wait to actually do this again when the AEW game is on the horizon. But for now, we're only 2 months away from the release of 2K22, and we are getting some cool stuff here. We got some new images. We got a gameplay trailer. I guess we could put that in quotes. We got some ratings on the roster reveal, and I think it's looking okay so far.
So here's my big question to you. Obviously, how this podcast works, we have to play all the wrestling games. Some we are very excited about. Others we're not so excited about. So my question to you right now, as we record this, it is January 30th. Are you, in the current state of what we've seen for the game, are you excited to get this? Is this a game that you're like, I actually can't wait to play it? Or
yes,
is this something that's on your pre-order list, I guess?
Straight up, yes. It's been so long since we had a game to get excited for, and I think the trailer and now the gameplay trailer, which is, we want to see actual people playing the game. We want to see the HUD, and we want to see how that's all going to look before we get a music video style trailer. But what we saw looks good. It looks smooth. It looks fluent. It looks way better than 2K20 ever looked. And I think the character models alone, listen, Bianca Belair's hair is not made of starch, so we're good.
I feel like we are, I'd like to think that we're a long ways from having to deal with something like that again. I think the developers may have learned from the, what's a good word?
It hits different.
Failure?
Yeah, it was a complete failure. I wish I could find the numbers of how many actually sold.
I mean, eventually that's going to be released, but if it's not already out already, I'd be surprised if it wasn't. But I feel like we are in such a good position for this game and potentially the future of this franchise, at least for the next couple of years, because of how bad 2K20 was. So I'm right there with you, man. I'm very excited for this. I think it looks awesome. They've done a really good job of keeping it under wraps, where they're building the hype. They don't want to show too much because that's what kind of got them into the shitstorm that was 2K20, I guess. So,
well, the game kind of got them into that shitstorm, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, they're keeping it low key. They're letting the game speak for itself, which I'm not opposed to. We just don't want to get cyberpunked again, and it seems like this is heading in the right direction. What I notice is, for the most part, this looks like you're watching a WWE TV, and I think that's pretty cool. I don't know what it's going to be like when you're actually in the match itself with the camera angles and all that, but I like the different angles in the gameplay trailer from the cage and the different animations, the new stuff they added. But we do have some people on the roster that got their ratings revealed, and I like that they're doing this, kind of like a sports game that they put out. So you want me to run through these quick?
Yeah, let's do it. And you know what? Let's run through them, and then let's talk about if we think that the rankings are justified.
Okay. So as of recording, there is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's going to be more coming out soon. But today, they announced Alexa Bliss is an 84. Bianca Belair is an 86. Six, who is X-Pac, is an 88, which that one's very high. Scott Hall is an 90. Kevin Nash is a 90. Lashley's a 91. Drew is I almost called him Drew Galloway. Drew McIntyre is a 91. Hulk Hogan is a 92, and Roman Reigns is a 95. Now, I think for the most part, other than 6 being an 88, they're pretty fair.
I was going to say, I think they're, a lot of the times. All right, I'm going to start over. I'm going to recompile my thought here, recompose my thought. When they do the reveals of we're sitting with this athlete and we're giving them their rating reveal, and they usually have some words to say about it. I don't think that really lends itself to this, where you can be like, oh, I should be ranked higher, because it's all like storyline based, if that makes sense. Like, how can you have Roman not be one of the higher ranked wrestlers? He's been on top.
Here's my thing, though. Who's higher than Roman? Why is he only a 95?
I don't think they ever go higher than, like, I don't think in a long time that we've had, like, I think maybe John Cena or The Rock was like a 96 or a 97, but like.
But then at the same time, you got the whole NWO who's like,
I would say Hogan
in the
maybe
90s,
is higher.
But no, I think just because they're a pre-order is why they're so high. I don't know if like Kevin Nash would actually, and Scott Hall would be a 90, and there's no way X-Pac would be an 88.
So you said Hogan is a 92. My question.
92, like TOO. Also.
Which Hogan is rated 92?
Well, that goes back to what we talk about. Is this going to be a separate roster spot for a separate Hulk Hogan, or is it just going to be a costume?
Their way that they're presenting the Undertaker DLC or the Undertaker pre-order makes me think that it's still going to be that whole,
What's he going to be rated? He's got to be around 93, 94.
Yeah, it's such a weird, like a weird line to be at, where it's just like,
what's Rey Mysterio going to be, the cover athlete? I guess that's probably the last one they're going to announce.
Yeah. I really am. I think the thing that I'm most excited about for this game is the showcase mode with Rey.
Yeah, and I'm never too into those.
Oh, I love them. I love them so much. But for me, it's just like, it's, I don't know. It's like, it's, to me, I would just always look at it as extra content. Like, yeah. You want to have a lot of meat on the bones and things that you're going to play. And here's just more things. I
have to actually correct you a little bit from last week.
Well, what did I say?
You wanted in the mark out moment, you chose that you would want a Christian showcase with the one more match. But upon research, because if you see, I put out my top 3 favorite WWE 2K games. 2K15 had a DLC showcase mode for one more match with him and Orton's feud.
Oh, maybe that's why it was in my head.
So that does exist. It's obviously not the full career of Christian, like you said, but it is that one.
Maybe that's where I got 13? The name from.
Yeah. What year was that? It had to be like 2010 or 11. It was right after Edge retired.
Let's find out.
But it's got all that in it. It's got like the promo with Edge where now he wins the belt and then the one more match. So it's pretty cool. So you do have your wish.
It looks like it's 2011? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But cool.
Yeah, so all in all, I got to tell you, this is the most excited that I have been for a WWE wrestling game in a number of years. And that actually leads into the mark out moment of the week, kind of, John. If you're If you're down, we can hop on over to that segment because it ties in to WWE 2K22.
All right, let's go. What's up, Game Marks? Are you trying to look your best while repping your favorite video game podcast duo? We know just the place. Head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod to pick up your favorite GMP designs, including our various logo tees, Future Endeavor, the classic NES Pro Wrestling style tee, and of course, Mark the F out. Order today and receive a phone call from us. You never know who will pop in. That's ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod. Play it forever.
All right, so the mark-out moment of the week is a weekly segment that we use to highlight something that happens in our GMP universe. That's the term that I'm going to start using now. It could be a good review. It could be a question. It could be just an interesting conversation topic that you bring up. And this week, it comes from Twitter, from CJ, Mad Titan _23. He asks, do you think WWE games should keep taking 1.5 to 2 years between making games and keep updating, or go back to the yearly game releases?
That's the question everyone's asking, because this is what people have been suggesting sports games do for a while. But I get it, because you do have like the arena updates. You have, maybe they're going to change the Raw stage. Maybe they're going to change what SmackDown looks like. Maybe Mania is going to be different. All stuff you could probably download, though. I think in the case of like this game, you would need a roster update after 1.5 years, because the roster is half depleted right now. And if you saw the Royal Rumble, if that's their top 30 guys, that's not good. So yes, I do think they should do every 1.5 to 2 years, but with a big update somewhere in the middle.
Okay, I disagree with you.
Okay.
I think what they should do is something similar to what the other sports franchises do. Maybe it's not as recently, but I do remember back in the day, and the technology exists within the title as it is now, because when we open 2K20 recently, you get the little thing that it says updating roster. So what I think should happen is that part of a season pass is you get whatever 4 DLC packs they're going to release, and then maybe year 2 of the game, part of that DLC pack that you get is the roster refresh. Maybe they add a couple new wrestlers. Maybe they refresh some attires for some people who have maybe changed their look. And that works into the DLC pack that you buy. Because one, it gives more longevity to the game. It gives the ability to have massive improvements year over or game to game, rather than having to rush things that end up breaking the game, and gives a little more incentive to buy the DLC packs or buy the season pass, which again has content in there which has like the future stars packs and stuff like that. So it could be a bit of a divisive kind of opinion, but I think that there's a way that they can make that work where they don't have to do the yearly release.
See, the only thing I think, not wrong, but it wouldn't be rushed if it was every 1.5, 2 years. But at the same time, on the opposite end, like what you're saying with like the outfits and stuff, like the attires, to me, like if you look back at like 2K whatever, the 14 or even SmackDown vs. Raw games, and you're like, oh, Zack Ryder wore the one-legged tights. It's kind of like nostalgic, right? So I kind of like that you have a set attire in the game and you could change it if you want, or you could leave it, because kind of like when you go back, you're like, oh, cool, Rey Mysterio wore this gear for this year. And then you get to see the update the following year, and you're kind of like excited for that.
So that,
if that makes any sense.
It does make sense, but that also goes back into the whole thing where like not every character needs a different character selection for an attire. If that's the case, we can combine both of those ideas where it's like
Give me 2 or 3.
all of a sudden
make them swipeable.
Make him swipeable. But then, like, part of that roster update is like, okay, say Rey Mysterio drastically changes his gear. He hasn't done it in a number of years, but let's say he drastically changes his gear and he doesn't wear that singlet top anymore. Now he's back to doing just the trunks, or he does something where it's like a full body nostalgia to Halloween Havoc or something like that. And now they want to incorporate that into the game. Well, in that year 2 DLC, you can add that as part of the pack, but rather than have it be a new character, you add it as like a sub menu for an outfit selection.
I think we're thinking way too into this.
Oh yeah,
we're fantasy
but that's
booking
just
this hard, but that's cool.
I have my wish list for the 2K series.
We both have opposite ends there, but at the same time, like an NHL game, like I don't want that. I want a new game every year because some of the fixes are so crucial. Like this year, you're not getting a penalty every single poke check, but next year they're going to have the new arena that I go to. So that's like maybe that wouldn't be there for 2 years.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, listen, double-edged sword.
Yeah.
There's really not a wrong answer when you're fantasy booking. It's all a matter of what is most important to you in terms of,
Just want a playable game.
Exactly. I think at the end of the day, all of us just want a base game that is solid and not buggy and broken. So as long as we get that, I really don't care what they do after that.
Yeah.
They can keep using the same engine as long as the engine is functional.
Yeah, that's all we want.
But let us know what you thought about this question and let us know your answers. What do you think? Should they go back to doing the yearly releases or should they take some time in between? And if you made it through John and I's fantasy booking, let us know what you think about our ideas for fantasy booking. And then if you have any fantasy booking ideas of your own on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. But is it time? Do I hear the electric volts in the background? Is it time?
I see the green strobe lights.
Are you ready?
I'm tiptoeing.
For max voltage?
Let's go. What's up, Marks? We are proud to announce our newest partnership with NordVPN.
Protect your privacy from prying eyes with military-grade encryption and NordVPN. Are you sick of getting targeted ads after looking up a product or talking about it once? Whether you want to maximize your streaming services, get better protection while working from home, or just want an added layer of security while browsing the internet, NordVPN is an easy and affordable way to protect access to your personal data.
Visit GameMarksPod.com/VPN to get more information and try NordVPN risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee.
Protect your information, reduce your digital footprint, and feel safer on the internet, all with NordVPN. Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 Max Voltage. That's a long name.
Yeah, so
released.
When he sent this name, I actually thought it was a Power Move Pro Wrestling game, and it was just like an older version. And I was like, oh, this again.
No, it's completely separate. Man, it's just another really long name. This game comes out September 13th, 1996 for the Super Famicom, developed by Diamond Head, published by Konami, and other games that you have in 1996. Ready for this lineup here? WWF In Your House, Fire Pro Wrestling, Iron Slam 96, Super Fire Pro Wrestling X, and Super Fire Pro Wrestling X Premium. Fire Pro Wrestling S 6-Man Scramble, New Japan Pro Wrestling Tokon Retsuden 2.
Another year where a lot of Japanese titles and only one WWF title.
But these Japanese titles are bangers.
Right, but just see the comparison right away. You're getting Iron Slam 96, you're getting Max Voltage 96. We're going to see two parallels of the Fire Pro series and this game this whole episode.
What? This game is nothing like Fire Pro.
No.
What? No, absolutely not. It definitely doesn't have similar controls or anything.
But one WWF game in 96, and In Your House is basically just a copy, paste, but worse of WrestleMania, the arcade game. I think that's a varying opinion, person to person. But when we played both of them as a doubleheader, In Your House was it was quicker. It wasn't as fun as the other games, but it also has a different roster. Okay, we're gonna go back and listen to that one if you want to hear our opinion. But
yeah, there's pros and cons to both. There's just mostly cons for In Your House. It's. I'm not a fan. I owned In Your House as a kid, and boy, do I wish that I owned WrestleMania the arcade game.
Yeah. But this game, max voltage 96, comparable to Fire Pro, literally out of 10 things. It's a copy and paste.
Let's just tick that box here. Let's just go through it.
The only thing you're getting different is it's not the 3/4 turned ring. It's actually just a regular, like you're looking at it, and the wrestlers themselves aren't as I don't know. What do you consider Fire Pro? Like, just I don't want to get murdered again for saying they're arcadey looking.
No, so I mentioned this last week. I'm going to make the same comparison because to me, this is what a lot of companies did in the mid to late 90s with a lot of their games for the Super Famicom and the Super SNES. The Super SNES, that's a thing that I said. The SNES and the Super Famicom. They would render 3D models of a character, and then they would save them down as a sprite. The example that I used last week was Donkey Kong Country. Mm-hmm. When that game comes out, that's like groundbreaking visual technology that they're like is only done in a couple of games prior to that, but that's the one that kind of launches that style. So this is very similar to that. If you're familiar, it's a 3D model of a wrestler doing different animations. They just save them down as flat sprites, and then they change it. They just change the viewing angle of the sprite depending on your wrestler's position in the ring. I think that that's a very successful way of doing it. I think it's very eye-catching and appealing. Whereas in Fire Pro, there's like certain angles that you really don't see of your wrestler.
No.
Like you never really get like a full-on. I mean, in modern games you do, but in the earlier titles, like around this time, you're not really getting a full front or a full back shot of your wrestler. You're getting the same angle, just in a different. I don't even know, like a different perspective.
Like this game, you could go up, down, left, right, up, right, down, right. You had literally every axis, and you could actually like punch and kick and hit a drop kick from the front or the back.
You're not affixed to a grid.
You are, but it's like that. It's just more.
There's you're on a grid. There's just more angles to the grid.
Yeah, and that confused us at first because we're not used to it. But once we got like going, I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you're familiar and you like the Fire Pro Wrestling series of games and you like how they control and the animations and the graphics style, I highly recommend this because this takes that and just is like a fresh coat of paint. It's different, but still kind of has that similar play style. The grapple systems, very, very similar. If you spam buttons, you're not going to hit anything. You have your weak attack, your mid attack, and your strong attack, and literally it plays exactly like Fire Pro.
It does.
There's really no other way to explain it. We have covered so many Fire Pro Wrestling games here.
I'll say this though, it's easier to like hit a move. The collision on the running attacks and the punches and kicks is way easier.
I don't know if that's a specific change for this game or if it's just like a sign of the times.
No, because the Fire Pro games around this time play pretty much like they do today, where you have to time it perfectly. You have to time the feet with the drop kick to hit the face at the same time. This one, you're just like running through the guy. We had Judas effects, we had back elbows, we had Yakuza kicks, and you ran right through. You trucked them.
All right, yeah, okay, fair point.
You had similar like game modes too. So you had your standard where you could also do a tag team match. You could 2-on-2, 3-on-3. You had shoot fights like SWA rules, and you had death matches, which are not as animated, not as gruesome as the Fire Pro Wrestling ones. I think the first time you hit the ring, you got that explosion, and that was really it. And rather than the turnbuckles being barbed wired, it's the actual ropes like an EC dub match.
I think the deathmatch may have been my least favorite part of this game.
It was hit or miss for me. It kind of took away the whole outside the ring aspect because there are like suicide dives and springboard moves that you could use on the outside, and it's a little more, I don't know, you could use it where the deathmatch you can't.
Yeah, and I was going to say that the deathmatch may be my least favorite part, but I just remembered that the top rope moves are very confusing.
Oh my god.
So each wrestler is assigned a move off the top rope, and you really don't know them until you're playing as that wrestler. So, some moves are bound to be in-ring moves. Other moves are bound to be out-of-ring moves, and it's just a crapshoot.
Yeah, so if you're in the ring and your opponent goes to the top, they could actually just fly outside the ring. So if you don't press a button, then you're hitting the guard. You're Kofi Kingston in the Royal Rumble.
Oh,
I know, that was sad. But there's other modes in this game. You got a tournament, which is self-explanatory. And so there's also League, where you take a character through just League play, where you're running through the roster. But then there's career mode called Max Voltage mode, which allows you to take the career of a created wrestler. Now, we use created loosely because it's pretty much just take these parts that are already there, pop in your name, and then you choose your player's background, where you could do, say, wrestling or bodybuilding, karate, and that gives you the moveset. Now, one thing we didn't see is finishers, because we just beat the crap out of each other and used submission moves or just pinned each other when we could, because this was a very important Clash at the Feast. But I assume that the few that we did see when researching, everyone has a set finisher.
Yeah, in solo playthrough, I definitely got hit with them a bunch of times. So they do exist, but did not utilize them in our match, mainly just because, like you said, this was more of a run out and beat them, because this was a very important Clash of the Feast.
Now, within the career mode, you're assigned a company as well, and there's only 4 in this game, and you could switch and mix and match, and you can go to whichever one you choose. But are you ready to get into those? Are you ready to get into this roster?
Let's talk about this roster.
Well, guess what? We're not reading these wrestlers because they do not really exist. They are in Japanese, and we cannot read them, and there's over 50 of them. So that's what you get for that. But we're going to read what the companies are, because you have Super Japan Pro Wrestling, which is your standard wrestlers. You have BOM, B-O-M, which is your hardcore deathmatch wrestlers. You have Reels, which is your MMA shoot fighters. And then you have WWK, which now you might think that's WWF or WCW at the time, but no. That's all the Konami characters, which include Bill and Lance from Contra, Goemon from Legend of Mystical Ninja, Getsu Fuma from Getsu Fuma Den, Richter Belmont, the main character from Mikyu Jin Dababa.
That's Castlevania.
Okay. A Snatcher. Oh. Yeah. A Snatcher, and then the protagonist from Battleantis. Moai Head, Blue Option, Pink Option, Vic Viper, and Lord British from Gradius, Salamander, and Parodius, and Sparkstar from Rocket Knight. You could tell I'm really in tune with all my Konami games here.
Yeah. So I so there's that, and there's like characters that I wouldn't necessarily. So like, are you familiar with the game series of Gradius? Have you ever played it?
Nope.
Okay, so that was like one of my like favorite games as a kid. It's like a little side scroller starfighter kind of game where you go up and down and like you collect power-ups, and it's just like a side scrolling like space fighter. So to see characters from a side scrolling star space cruiser in a wrestling game was very strange. I mean, the Richter Belmont from Castlevania, there's like some weird crossovers here. Like some of them make sense, and like other ones, I'm like, of all the people to pick from a game, this is what you picked. But like,
I think Contra's the only game I'm really familiar with here, and that's even
Contra's
not much.
Contra and Gradius, for like first 2 games I ever played.
Oh, look at that. But that's your roster. Let's get into this artwork here because I could see them trying to go a little Fire Pro-y here.
What gave it away? Is it the giant swirling Dante's Inferno in the background cover?
That plus the little flaming looking font.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of subtlety happening here.
I actually want to look up Iron Slam 96 and see what that one looks like. We played that one, I believe.
We did. I think that was also a Soups game.
Okay, so that one's just the white cover with Fire Pro Wrestling on it. But
yeah, it's like the brush font, right?
No, it's in the Fire font like this, but it's not in Japanese. But the max voltage is almost identical to Iron Slam 96. But I actually like this one a little better because it's got the like metal behind it, and it's got these weird rendered wrestlers on the cover. I don't know what those are doing.
I mean, to be fair, the Fire Pro Wrestling Iron Slam back cover is. So, do you actually remember Iron Slam?
No.
So Iron Slam is
yes,
is the 3D one.
Yes.
Is the full 3D one. So, the Iron Slam back cover, man.
Oh, yes.
It looks the same.
Okay.
It's got the bad 3D renders
now
of the wrestlers.
I get it.
These guys just put it front and center.
No, now I get it. Because Fire Pro came out in 96 with the 3D version that no one really liked. So they came out with whatever this is called. What is it called? Max Voltage 96. And there you go. You got your Fire Pro Wrestling game for the year without it being a Fire Pro Wrestling game. This is smart. I like it. Good job, guys.
Yeah. All right. I'll give it to you. So let's talk about this. The first thing that you see when you start up this game, if you're in the US and you played a Midway game in the early 90s, do you remember what used to pop up in like the arcade cabinets back in the day?
I just remember the flaming Midway logo of NHL hits 03.
Say no to drugs.
Oh yes. Okay.
So for this game, instead of that kind of screen, you get dedicated to all the people who love pro. Actually, no, it says dedicated to all the people love professional wrestling.
Okay.
But, who love professional wrestling. But the message is there.
Listen, the game is in English from there, and then the menu, and then the second menu, and then it gets full Japanese where you can't read anything.
I never understood why games do this.
I don't know. There's got to be an answer somewhere.
Why it's just like the partial...
Maybe it goes back to because they know American fans liked Fire Pro and would want to get their hands on this.
Yeah. Well, all right.
But let's look at it visually because I think it's a really nice looking arena. It's a really nice looking game. You get entrances where they slowly walk down the aisle, but you're not getting them where you're like looking at the wrestler straight on and you're making an entrance. It's kind of in like a Jumbotron looking screen with the Pink Floyd's laser light show going behind it.
So the only thing that could go through my head while we were watching these entrances, and I don't know why I didn't think about it during the solo playthrough, only while we were playing it, is, wow, can you imagine playing this game in 96 on like a tube CRT monitor, like old school small television, and you're watching a video game entrance play out on a Tron. So you're like watching a screen through a screen, and that screen is only like 16 like it's a really small screen.
Yeah, I can't imagine that.
Microscopic Tron on a TV in 1996.
Yeah, I referenced the Impact Zone during Clash at the Feast for the laser light show, which I thought
yes,
they used the strobes very well in the early 2000s. But the arena itself, the ring looks great. Like I said before, it's got like the crinkles in the apron. It's not the 3/4 turned. It's a straight on ring, but the dimensions look really good. The outside of the ring looks like a wrestling ring. The crowd looks like a crowd. They even have the Japanese tables with the monitors in front row. I don't see announcers at the tables, but they are there.
Yeah, they are there. You hear them throughout. That's, how did we not notice that?
I don't know, but you pointed out that the announcers were saying some cool things, and I think you should tell people some of the stuff they said.
Yeah, so they call out the moves while you're like actually doing the match. You know, they'll call out Lariato, and they'll call out a Brainbuster, and they'll call out a Scorpion Deathlock, which
right.
was wild to me.
Yeah, usually you hear that as a sharpshooter, but maybe there's some copyrights involved there.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool that you know, your body slam, and I mean, if you're watching the Clash at the Feast video that we put out, you hear body slam like 100 times. But it's cool. There's a lot of things that this game does that maybe Fire Pro doesn't. And again, I'm sound like a broken record. If you like the Fire Pro games and you want to have that gameplay experience, but on a different visual engine, this might be the game for you. If there's things that you find frustrating about the visuals of Fire Pro Wrestling, this could be a Band-Aid to fix that.
See, I thought when we started playing this game, it was going to be like what's that game? New Japan Pro Wrestling 95? Battle in Tokyo Dome. I thought it was going to be like one of those. I didn't know it was like a direct rip-off of Fire Pro, but I was actually surprised by it and happy about it because it did feel familiar while it was a brand new game. Even the referee kind of looks like Red Shoes without having actual red shoes.
I say it's like brown shoes.
Like
I want you can cut this out or you can leave this in. But when you started that sentence, I am so used to you starting a sentence after we talk about the visual styles that we're going to go into the did you know, that I literally was like, wow, he's going really long for this intro of did you know. And then you stop saying, you finish your thought, and I was like, oh, he's not good. That was actually like a full thought that John just made.
No, we're still talking here.
I was very confused.
Also, much like Fire Pro, you get the company that I guess you would call it a company. The company logo in the middle of the ring for whichever one you choose. There's only 4, but I think
some are more subtle than others.
Yeah, but I think they're all really detailed and really, for fake companies, they look really cool. Like there was that one that looked like the New York Rangers mixed with the WCW Nitro exploding vagina logo.
Yeah, that's the BOM.
Yeah.
BOM looks like the WCW logo.
And then there's a fake New Japan logo. There's one that looks like Evolve.
I think the Super Japan Pro Wrestling is the one that looks like the New Japan.
Yeah, it even says Fighting Spirits on it.
I think the real is the one that you said that kind of reminded you of Evolve.
Yeah, or like Shimmer, one of those.
Yeah.
Shine.
And then the WWK one is just it's like a gold TNA logo.
A lot of parallels here.
Yeah, it's weird, but like they feel unique and they look okay. You know what we didn't talk about, and I feel like we should talk about this. The character selection.
Oh, okay.
So the portraits, the icons, the avatars, whatever you want to call it, for the wrestlers themselves look nothing like the sprites for the actual wrestlers in the match. To an extent, there's similarities, but I think you said it best, John. The avatars and the looks and appearance of these guys is awesome on these avatars. Like you pick a guy and he's got a skull face and you're like, yeah, this guy's gonna be badass.
That's
and then you play the match and he's just yeah, Silver Skeeter. That's a reference, and a surprisingly accurate reference.
I surprise you a lot, huh?
Or it's just, or you just get like this generic like base model guy and he's got like just a stark white face. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I guess that kind of looks like a skull.
But the moves of each character are just so detailed. Like the submission moves look incredible. And
animations are smooth.
There's also no health bar like Fire Pro. It's just the timer in the top corner. So it's kind of out of the way. It's not really there. But I think my favorite part of all of them was, did you know?
There it is.
Did you know Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 max voltage is on eBay from $20 to $50 complete with an untested cartridge only going for $9. That's all we got.
You know. Oh, damn.
Only one this week. Not
yeah.
much to know about this game.
Wait, I have another did you know? Did you know that there is only one did you know fact for this game?
Oh boy. Who let him have a microphone?
I participated in the did you know this week.
I could have let you read it, I guess.
Yeah, well, now you're just going to do more reading because it's time for us to talk about those ratings and reviews, John. Let's see what the people had to say.
All right, so we're going to go with the game FAQ user rating since this is a game in 96 in Japan and we don't have much to go off of. The game rating here is a 3.5 out of 5 stars out of 14 ratings. The difficulty is a 4 out of 5 stars, and the length played is a 3 out of 5, which equals 36 hours put in. And I could see that because it does have that career mode. It has the tournament. It has league play. It has everything you want here. And much like a Fire Pro, you could even just go in and just play some death matches, play some regular matches, check out all the characters. And I think it's just a good way to kill some time. I mean, I think I would put a lot of time into this game if I had it in 96. But I'm going to read a few excerpts here from the Islanders just scored, from Hardcore Gaming 101, where they say Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 max voltage doesn't have many options, characters, or moves as Fire Pro, but it does stand up very well in all of those areas and even has a few things that set it apart from the rest of its hardware's amazing library of wrestling games. It's definitely among the better examples of the genre, so if you're a fan of this style of wrestling games, you need to play this thing. My absolute favorite thing about it, though, it is able to watch the characters from forgotten Konami games perform flying elbows against each other before tagging off to Geomon and Option. So overall, no one really hates on this game for being a Fire Pro ripoff from what I saw. Seems generally liked.
You know, I feel like if this game came out today and it was a very similar thing. I mean, listen, we've played games that were like what I'm about to explain right now. This game comes out today. It's a direct ripoff, direct competition with another main series. It's like the first thing that people are going to say.
Right.
I mean, we played so many other games that were more recently released for like, you know, a PlayStation or a PS2, or just like, this is a direct ripoff of whatever other game. And that was like a major critique for us. And people were just like, oh, hey, this game is fun. Play it. I guess it all depends on the quality of the ripoff, if that makes sense. Like if you do a ripoff and it's a good game still, you're like, all right, yeah, it's a ripoff, but at least it's fun to play.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to correct myself because I said the Iron Slam was the Fire Pro that came out this year, but that was for the PlayStation. You also had S for the Saturn, like we said, which who the fuck has a Sega Saturn? No one. But then you had Super Fire Pro Wrestling X for the Super Famicom, which we played. And that was an incredible one. So there is a lot of competition here.
Yeah. I'm trying to think in my brain. Do you smell the smoke? Because my brain's going.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out internally because I know what's coming up next. And there's decisions to be made,
right, well,
John.
Let's save it for that. Then let's get into it. Let's not go long-winded here. Let's go long-winded there.
I'm going to try not to go long-winded at all.
All right. But right now, it's time to rate the games.
The game!
All right, George Feis, let's get it out.
Oh,
Jikkyō
I was going to make you go
Pro
first.
Wrestling 96 max voltage. Will you play it forever or future endeavor?
You're fired!
Yeah, it's a play it forever.
Why?
It's a play
Tell
it
us
forever.
why.
It's cool. It's Fire Pro but different. That's the easiest explanation that I could give it. It's Fire Pro and it plays like Fire Pro, but it looks different. Like if they'd made this game and they were like, this is Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 max voltage, and it had the 3/4 turn camera and you ran on the same grid and the graphics looked the same, and this was like literally just like a generic ripoff of a Fire Pro game, then this would probably be a future endeavor. Just go play a Fire Pro game. But there is enough meat on the bone here to make it feel different. To me, The only big similarity are their controls. And yeah, to me, it feels fun. It's a good game. I had a lot of fun playing it by myself. I had a lot of fun playing it with you, even though we're not allowed to take the multiplayer aspect into the ratings. But single player playthrough was fun, and for that reason, it's a play it forever.
Thank you for not going long-winded.
Yeah, listen, guys, that was, man, just so not long-winded. I'm so good at my job. Johnny Clash.
What's up?
Now I turn the question to you. I'm not going to do it again. Max Voltage, will you play it forever or future endeavor? And please, for the love of God, John, don't go long-winded.
Play it forever. I like the game.
Woo! Yeah, I mean, I feel like whoever goes first, the other person's just kind of like, yeah, like exactly what you said. Like,
no, exactly. It felt familiar, but it was enough of a different game visually that it stood alone to me, and the characters were cool, and yeah, play it forever. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and insert the James Franco, the same but different.
I'm probably not going to do that, but I do want to reiterate what you said earlier, whereas if you're a fan of Fire Pro and you want something a little different but familiar, please go out of your way, whether you have a Super Famicom for some reason or you want a Turrican emulator, check it out.
Well,
we
don't condone the use of emulators.
No. But all right, let's talk about our weekly tournament, Clash at the Feast.
I'm bitter.
All right, for this week's episode, head on over to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast where we play Jikkyō Power Pro Wrestling 96 Max Voltage. And listen, we usually go over the previous weeks here, but last week we played Superstars 2 for the Game Boy and we only did a playthrough. We didn't actually have Clash at the Feast. So this week, it came down to me versus you, one win each for the month of January. You're up 5-3 right now. First game, you win. Now I'm sweating. Because second game, I win. And I went with
decisively.
I went with Old Faithful here. Now, game 3, you whooped my ass. But somehow, I pulled off a pin out of nowhere. And your winner, making the score for this season 5-4. Johnny Clash. Play my music. Me. Not everything's made to last. This is my life. This is my life. So, if I win February, we're tied. And then it's only one more month for all the marbles.
Yeah. Now, I'm not mad.
You're just disappointed?
No, I'm not mad. I'm not worried. I've said it the entire time that we've been doing this podcast. This is what I wanted. I like when it's competitive. There's no fun in it being 6-0 because then for the rest of the time, the Clash at the Feasts don't mean anything. It's just us playing games.
You say that, but then in Nitro, you just stood outside the ring. But I digress. That's real competition there. But anyway, tell us what we're playing next week to start off February.
To start off February, we will be playing, courtesy of Mega Mark Tekker, we are playing All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling for the PlayStation 1.
Oh man, all right, it's been a while and it's on the PlayStation, which means it's gonna be good. You know, I love my PlayStation.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this is not PlayStation Cutie Suzuki.
Looks like a legit wrestling game, which makes me even more excited because All Japan Pro Wrestling put out some pretty damn good games, I got to say.
One can only hope, John. I'm really pulling for this to not be another Cutie Suzuki here.
You and me both.
Oh yeah, you say that, but
take us home.
I believe you. All right, that is going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks podcast. Please check out all of our merchandise at GameMarksPod.com/shop. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/GameMarksPod. It's the best way, besides listening, to support the podcast. And be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. Leave us a review and a rating on both Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And subscribe to this podcast wherever you choose to listen. And we will see you next week. Thank you again for hanging out with us. John, I think it's time.
Game over, Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future Endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.